So we are in the Harris Room of the London Jewish Community Centre in the exhibit More Than Just Games, Canada and the 1936 Olympics, that was produced by the Vancouver Holocaust Education Centre. On the surface, what people see is historic photos of athletes, of politicians, but when they read closely and they look closely, what they see is a potential turning point when the world was made aware of what was going on in Nazi Germany, and perhaps was a chance to make things happen differently. The exhibit tells the story of the games, of how they came to be in Nazi Germany, of some of the protests and boycotts that were arranged, some that succeeded, some that didn't, and also the experiences of athletes and journalists as they came, and Canadians had their first intersection with the Nazi regime in many respects, and what they brought back, and what they did do and what they didn't do. The question of whether the games were a propaganda success for the Nazi regime remains open. The regime was able to continue in the brief period between the Winter Olympics, which were hosted in Germany, and then followed 6 months later by the Summer Olympics. The Nazis continued to tear up international treaties, to build armaments, and in that sense, it can be looked on as a failure. But you know, what we remember now sometimes is the experiences of great athletes like Jesse Owens from the U.S. or African-Canadian Phil Edwards, who challenged the notions of this Aryan superiority. One of the 21st century takeaways for this exhibit is potentially to be a savvy consumer of media, and you know, that there's an ethical responsibility that everyone has in the face of propaganda that we're constantly barraged with, whether it's political engineering, consumer engineering, or anything like that, that in the end it's up to us as individuals and as community members and as potential activists and committed not to being bystanders, to stand up when we see something is wrong, not to participate. And every facet of life, not just when you vote, but when you participate in community events, including sports, there's a chance to speak up when you see injustice, and that almost anything can be a vehicle to stand up for what's right.
I think that the students have not really been educated on the events that took place during the Holocaust. And so this is, it's an eye-opening experience for them. There's a lot of information that's being put upon them, and it's a lot to take in. So I think that they were, first of all, they were very attentive, and I think it's going to take a while for them to digest all this information, and hopefully their teachers back in their classrooms will go over the events and what we talked about today. So I think that this is a very important area that needs to continue, not just today, but that should be taught in schools throughout their curriculum.